Long ago, before the world was as it is now, the sun ruled the skies without rest. Morning flowed into afternoon, and afternoon stretched into another morning. There was no darkness, no shadows, no stars, only light. At first, the people thought it was a blessing. They worked without stopping, harvesting yam and millet from fields that never cooled. Hunters roamed the forests at all hours, and children played until their legs grew weak. But soon, the endless sun became a curse. The crops began to wither beneath the heat. The rivers shrank, and the people grew weary. Children lay restless in their mother's arms, their eyes burning for sleep that never came. Old men sat in the village square, heads in their hands, muttering, "How long can we live without rest?" The women complained that their husbands had grown short-tempered, and the elders quarreled more than they ever had. The drums sounded dull, for even music had grown tired under the weight of the sun. It was in this village that a man named Okoro lived. He was clever, quick of tongue, and always curious. While others cursed the heat, he watched the horizon with wondering eyes. If there is day, he thought, then surely there must be something else. Something the world is hiding from us. One evening, as he sat by the dying river, he overheard two old women whispering. "There is a story," one said softly, "that long ago, before the sun seized the sky, there was another thing, a time called night." The other shook her head fearfully. "Hush, you should not speak of such things. Night is forbidden. It was locked away in a pot and hidden in the mountains. The spirits guard it still." Okoro's heart stirred. Night. The word rolled through his mind like a song. He lifted his face to the blazing sun and whispered to himself, "If the world once had night, then I will find it again." And so, in a land weary of endless daylight, the first seed of a dangerous dream was planted in the heart of a restless man. Okoro could not sleep, though no one in the village truly could. Yet his restlessness was not only from the burning sun. The word he had heard, night, echoed in his mind like a drumbeat that refused to fade. In the days that followed, he began to notice things he had ignored before. Children with hollow eyes, mothers sighing heavily as they cooked, men who snapped angrily at one another for the smallest things. The world was breaking under the weight of endless day. But Okoro's heart beat with curiosity. Not despair, he wanted to know more. He began to question the oldest men in the square, those with wrinkled faces who sat in silence. Most waved him off angrily. "Do not stir trouble where there is none," they warned. One evening, however, a half-blind elder named Baba Anu called him closer. "I know what you seek," the old man rasped. "The night is real, long ago. The spirits placed it in a great clay pot, sealed with woven reeds, and hid it in the mountain of shadows. They feared that men would misuse it. They feared that men would not understand balance." Okoro leaned in, his eyes burning with questions. "And where is this mountain?" Baba Anu spat into the dust. "Far beyond the forest, past the great desert. Few who go there return. Even if you reach it, the spirits will test you. Do not seek it, boy. If the night is freed, the world will change forever." But instead of fear, Okoro felt his determination grow stronger. For what was life in a world where no one could rest? As he left the square, he heard the whispers of villagers behind him. Some mocked him, Okoro the fool, chasing shadows. Others muttered nervously, "What if he truly dares to bring night back?" That night, as the endless sun burned low but never disappeared, Okoro stood at the edge of the village. He stared at the distant line of mountains and whispered, "If balance lies there, then I must bring it home, even if the spirits stand against me." The whispers of darkness had become a calling, and Okoro was ready to answer. From that day on, Okoro could think of nothing else. When the men sharpened their spears for hunting, his mind wandered to the mountains. When the women pounded yam and sang their tired songs, he heard only the echo of the elders' warning, "The night is real." He began to drift through the village, like a man caught between two worlds. Some pitied him, others sneered. "Okoro has lost his senses," they said. But deep within, he carried a fire that no mockery could quench. Often, he sat alone by the river, tracing lines in the mud with his finger. He imagined a world divided, half for the sun, half for the darkness. He imagined children closing their eyes and drifting into rest, and farmers finding shade to cool their weary bones. But not everyone dismissed his thoughts. A young woman named Adana, known for her sharp tongue, stopped him one afternoon. "Okoro," she said, hands on her hips, "why do you sit here dreaming when the rest of us suffer? Do you think you are wiser than the elders?" "I do not know if I am wiser," Okoro answered quietly, "but I know this, the world cannot go on like this. There must be more than endless day. If the spirits locked night away, then perhaps it was meant to be found again." Adana frowned, torn between fear and admiration. If you go after it, you may never return. Then let me be the one who tries, he replied firmly. That evening, Okoro lay on his mat, eyes wide open under the blazing sun that never dimmed. The village was restless, women humming lullabies to sleepless babies, men tossing in frustration. Okoro stared at the sky and whispered, "If there is such a thing as night, let me be the one to bring it back." And in that moment, though the sun still burned, a strange calm settled in his heart. His decision was made. The following morning, Okoro went to the council of elders, where the oldest men sat beneath the sacred Iroko tree. Their faces were stern, carved deep with lines of age and burden. He bowed low and said, "Fathers, I have heard whispers of a thing called night. Is it true that it was locked away? Is it true that balance was stolen from us?" The elders shifted uncomfortably. One coughed into his hand. Another tapped his staff against the earth. For a long while, none of them spoke. Finally, the eldest of them, Chief Odenigbo, raised his tired eyes. "Some things, boy, are not meant to be spoken. The world is, as the gods have left it. Endless day is our burden, and we must carry it. But people are suffering," Okoro pressed, his voice rising. "The crops dry. The children weep. We are restless in our own bones. If night can restore balance, why should we not seek it?" A murmur ran through the elders. One of them snapped, "Do not tempt the wrath of the spirits. Night was hidden for a reason. Men are greedy, they will misuse it. Do you want to bring ruin upon us all?" Okoro clenched his fists. Their fear was clear, but so was their refusal to act. "If you will not guide me, then I will go myself," he declared. At this, Chief Odenigbo slammed his staff into the earth. "Enough, you are reckless, Okoro. If you take this path, you go without our blessing. You go as a man alone." The other elders turned their faces away. Their silence was heavier than any words. Okoro left the council with fire in his chest. Their warnings did not weaken him. They only proved what he already knew. The elders had grown too comfortable in their fear. That night, as the endless sun hovered above the horizon, refusing to set, Okoro whispered to himself, "If no one dares to act, then I will." And somewhere far away, in the mountain of shadows, the spirits stirred, for they had felt his resolve. The village buzzed with whispers after Okoro's confrontation with the elders. Women shook their heads at the market. Men muttered while sharpening their hoes and spears. Children pointed at him with wide, curious eyes. Some called him brave, others called him mad. But Okoro no longer cared. His heart was set. He would find night, even if it meant standing against the will of his people. That evening, as the unsetting sun glared mercilessly, Okoro visited his late father's hut. From a clay pot hidden in the corner, he retrieved a carved wooden staff, the only thing his father had left him. He tested its weight in his hand, feeling courage stir in his chest. When he stepped outside, Adana was waiting for him. Her eyes were hard, though her voice trembled. "You are truly going, aren't you?" "Yes," Okoro replied. "The elders may bow to fear, but I will not. If balance lies in the mountains, then I will bring it back." Tears brimmed in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. "And what if the spirits kill you? What if night is worse than the endless sun? Then let me be the one who bears that burden." He said softly, "Better to try and fail than to live forever in this curse of light." Adana pressed a small leather pouch into his hand. Inside were roasted groundnuts and dried meat. "Take this," she whispered. "Even a fool needs strength on the road." Okoro smiled faintly. "If I return, I will tell the world that you alone believed I could." That night, as the villagers tossed restlessly in their homes, Okoro stood at the edge of the village, his staff in one hand, Adana's pouch at his side. He gazed toward the distant mountains. The decision was no longer a thought, it was a path. And as he took his first step into the unknown, a strange wind rose from the horizon, as though the world itself had felt the stir of his defiance. Before the sun reached its full glare, Okoro rose quietly. He tied Adana's pouch to his waist, grasped his father's staff, and stepped out into the village square. The air was heavy. People were already awake, because in a land without night, no one ever truly slept. They watched him with uneasy eyes. Mothers pulled children closer. Old men spat into the dust, and the blacksmith muttered under his breath, "Foolishness will bring death." Only a few dared to meet his gaze. Among them was Adana, standing near the well. She did not speak, but her eyes held a storm of fear and hope. Okoro raised his voice so all could hear. "I go to seek what the elders fear. If I return, the world will be changed. If I do not, then at least I will not have lived in silence." The people murmured, some sneered, others whispered prayers, but none tried to stop him. And so he walked away, past the drying fields, past the weary goats, past the dying river that no longer quenched thirst. He walked until the voices of the village faded behind him, leaving only the endless hum of cicadas in the heat. The first stretch of the journey was through grasslands, where tall blades swayed under the heavy sun. Sweat rolled down his back, but his spirit burned hotter than the day. He paused only to drink from a gourd, then pressed on. By evening, though the sun never dimmed, he reached the edge of the forest. The trees loomed tall and strange, their shadows stretching long and cool across the ground. Okoro stopped, marveling. It was the first time he had ever seen shade so deep. He gripped his staff tightly. For the first time since leaving the village, his heart beat with both fear and wonder. Was this a taste of the night he sought? Behind him lay the safety of the village. Before him stretched the wild unknown. Okoro drew a long breath, whispered a prayer to the gods of his ancestors, and stepped into the shadows of the forest. The journey had truly begun. The forest swallowed Okoro whole. Tall trees stretched toward the blazing sun, their branches weaving so thickly that patches of darkness clung beneath them. Okoro paused, staring at the shadows. He bent down, touched the earth beneath one, and felt a coolness he had never known. His chest tightened. So this is what the world has been missing. But the forest was not silent. Strange whispers drifted between the trees, and the rustling of leaves carried more than just the wind. Okoro gripped his staff tightly and walked on. Hours passed, the path twisted, splitting into many trails that seemed to rearrange themselves when he turned his head. Hunger gnawed at him, but when he opened Adana's pouch, he found only a handful of roasted groundnuts. He chewed slowly, saving the rest for later. Then he heard it, laughter high. Mocking laughter, he froze. From the shadows ahead, 3 figures stepped out. They looked like men, but their eyes gleamed green, and their bodies shimmered as though made of smoke. "Traveler," one hissed, "why do you disturb our forest?" "I seek balance," Okoro said firmly, though his knees trembled. "I seek the night." At this, their laughter grew louder. "The night is forbidden," another said, circling him like a vulture. "But if you wish to pass, you must prove your courage." The third spirit pointed toward a tree, whose trunk split into 2 hollow mouths. "Enter and face what you fear most." Okoro's heart thundered. He knew this was a test. He pressed his staff into the soil, whispered a prayer, and stepped into the hollow. Inside, darkness wrapped around him, thick and heavy. For the first time in his life, the sun was gone. He gasped, unable to see his own hands. Whispers clawed at his ears. "You will die here. Your village has forgotten you. Adana laughs at your foolishness." Okoro trembled, but then he struck his staff against the ground. "I do not fear lies. I fear a world without rest. If the night brings balance, I will face it." The voices vanished, the darkness thinned, and when he stepped back out, the spirits bowed their smoky heads. "You may pass," they said, "but beware, the forest was only the beginning." Okoro tightened his grip on his staff and walked on, deeper into the unknown. Beyond the forest, the land opened into a vast stretch of golden sand. The ground shimmered beneath the sun's fire, and the horizon seemed to dance like a living thing. Okoro paused at the edge, his throat already dry. Behind him, the forest rustled with unseen voices. But before him lay the desert, the second trial. He whispered to himself, "If I turn back now, the village will never know balance." And so he stepped forward. The first hours were bearable. He sipped from his gourd, rationed his food, and leaned on his staff as he trudged through the shifting sands. But soon, the desert revealed its cruelty. The air grew heavy, burning his lungs with every breath. His gourd emptied quickly, and sweat drenched his body until none was left to give. Then came the mirages. At first, he thought he saw water, blue rivers glimmering in the distance. He ran toward them, heart pounding, only for the sands to rise up and swallow the vision whole. Next, he saw Adana standing in the distance, her arms outstretched, her voice calling his name. But when he stumbled toward her, the figure melted into heat and vanished. Okoro fell to his knees, his staff sinking into the sand. His head spun. Perhaps the elders were right. Perhaps no man was meant to seek night. But then shade. A small patch of coolness under a jagged rock outcrop. He crawled toward it, pressing his back against the stone. For the first time in his life, he sat in true shadow. The relief was like water to his soul. Okoro closed his eyes, breathing deeply. "This is what my people need," he whispered. "This is why I cannot turn back." Night was no longer just a word. It was a promise of rest, of balance, of mercy. When he opened his eyes, the heat still raged. The sand still stretched endlessly, but his spirit no longer wavered. He rose, lifted his staff, and pressed forward, step by step, toward the distant mountains that waited like silent giants on the horizon. At last, after many days, Okoro reached the foot of the forbidden mountain. Its slopes were jagged and black, rising so high they seemed to pierce the belly of the sun. Strange winds howled down its cliffs, carrying voices that were not of this world. Okoro planted his staff into the earth and stared upward. "This is where the night is hidden," he whispered. His legs ached from the desert, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. He began the climb. The rocks were sharp, cutting his feet through his sandals. Each step felt heavier, as though unseen hands pressed against his chest, willing him to turn back. Still, he pressed on. Halfway up, the air shifted. A thick mist rolled across the path, and from it emerged three towering figures cloaked in smoke. Their eyes glowed like embers, and their voices boomed like thunder. "Okoro of the Endless Sun," the first spirit said. "Why do you climb this mountain?" "I seek the night," he replied boldly. "The world is weary, the people are broken, I will bring balance." The second spirit stepped forward, its shadow stretching across the rocks. "The night is not a toy for mortals. It was sealed for a reason. Men are greedy, and you are no different." The third spirit raised a hand, and the air grew so heavy Okoro could barely breathe. "Turn back now, or you will lose more than your life. You will lose your soul." Okoro trembled, but he lifted his staff high. "If balance comes with a price, then let me pay it. Better to die seeking rest for my people than to live forever in endless day." For a moment, the mountain went silent. Then the first spirit's voice softened. "Very well, mortal. But know this, the pot of darkness will test you. If your heart wavers, it will consume you. If you misuse it, the world will curse your name for eternity." The mist parted, revealing a narrow path that wound upward into the clouds. Okoro gritted his teeth and climbed higher. His heart steady, the spirits had warned him. But his resolve did not falter, for in his chest burned one thought alone. "I will not return empty-handed." The path narrowed as Okoro climbed higher, until it was no wider than his staff. The wind screamed against the rocks, and the mountains seemed alive, breathing with every step he took. Yet something pulled him onward, a heaviness in the air, a strange humming that vibrated through his bones. Finally, he reached a plateau carved flat into the mountain's side. At its center stood a massive clay pot, taller than a man, sealed with woven reeds and wrapped in ropes of cowhide. It pulsed faintly, as though a heart beat within it. Okoro's breath caught. The night. He approached slowly, his staff trembling in his hand. As he drew closer, whispers spilled into his ears, voices layered on voices. Old and young, male and female. "Free us. Claim our powers. Let the darkness be yours." Okoro pressed his palms to the pot. At once, a coldness surged through him, so sharp he staggered back. He had never felt cold in a world where the sun never slept. The chill wrapped around him, seeping into his bones, but instead of fear he felt awe. Yet the whispers did not stop. They grew sharper, more tempting. "You will be king, greater than the elders, greater than the spirits themselves." Okoro closed his eyes, his chest heaving. For a moment, doubt clawed at him. What if the elders were right? What if this thing was too dangerous? But then he remembered the sleepless children, the weary farmers, the women sighing beneath the unending sun. He remembered Adana's trembling eyes when she gave him the pouch of food. "I did not come for power," he said aloud, his voice shaking but strong. "I came for balance." He pressed his staff against the ropes, testing their strength. They did not budge. The seal was ancient, meant to hold for eternity. Okoro knew then that the pot would not yield easily. To carry it would be a burden heavier than any he had ever known. Still, he set his jaw, placed his hands firmly on the pot, and began to lift. The mountain groaned, the air split with thunder, and far below, in the village that had never known shadows, the people looked up in fear, for the sky itself seemed to tremble. The moment Okoro lifted the pot, his knees buckled. It was heavier than stone, heavier than water, heavier than anything he had ever carried. His arms shook, and sweat burst from his skin, though the pot itself radiated a strange chill. He staggered forward, every step an agony. The mountain path twisted downward, narrow and treacherous. Behind him, the spirits' voices rose in the wind. "You were warned, you were warned." But louder still were the whispers from within the pot. They slithered into his ears, cold and sweet. "Okoro, why suffer for them? Why bleed for people who mocked you? Who called you mad? Keep the night for yourself." He clenched his teeth. "I carry this for balance, not for power." The pot laughed, a hollow echoing sound. "Balance is weakness, with me. You could make them bow, you could rule the village, you could rule the world." Okoro stumbled, almost dropping the pot. For a moment, the thought burned in his mind. Okoro the outcast, crowned king by the power of darkness. But then Adana's voice echoed in his memory. "Even a fool needs strength on the road." He gripped the pot tighter, forcing his legs forward. I did not come for crowns. I came for rest, for my people to sleep without sorrow. The whispers hissed, angry now. You are a fool, you will break before you reach the ground. And truly, his body screamed with pain. His shoulders ached as if splitting apart. His breath came ragged, and every step felt like the mountain itself was trying to swallow him whole. Yet with every faltering step, a strange thing happened. Shadows lengthened around him, soft, gentle, cool. For the first time, Okoro realized that night was already spilling slowly from the cracks of the pot, curling around his body like smoke. The darkness did not frighten him. It soothed him, eased the fire of the sun, and whispered promises of rest. Still the voices inside the pot continued. Claim us. Rule them, be more than a man. Okoro pressed on, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the horizon. I will carry you, but I will never belong to you. And the mountain shook again, as though the pot did not take kindly to his defiance. The journey down the mountain was long and merciless. Okoro's feet bled, his back bent. But at last, the familiar plains stretched out before him. The great clay pot pressed against his shoulders like a living weight, whispering still, yet he refused to answer. When he reached the edge of the village, the people gasped, mothers clutched their children close, and men gripped their spears in trembling hands. No one had ever seen such a thing. A pot taller than a man, wrapped in ropes, humming with a strange power. Shadows stretched beneath it, though the sun still burned high above. It is him, someone whispered. Okoro has returned. But what has he brought? Another muttered. The elders gathered quickly, Chief Odenigbo at their head. His face was pale, his eyes sharp. Okoro, what madness is this? Have you defied the will of the spirits? Okoro set the pot down with a heavy thud that shook the earth. His chest heaved, his voice raw but steady. This is the night, you feared it. But I have seen the truth. The world cannot live on endless day. Without rest we wither, without balance we die. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some were awestruck, bowing their heads. Others shouted in fear, calling him cursed. Then a voice cut through the noise. It was Abena, son of one of the elders and Okoro's longtime rival. His eyes glittered with envy. Do not listen to him, he cried. He is bewitched, he brings a curse upon us all. If he truly carries a blessing, let him open the pot and prove it. The people fell silent. All eyes turned to Okoro. The whispers from the pot grew louder. Seizing the moment, yes, open us, let them see your power. Okoro's grip tightened on his staff. His body screamed with weariness. His spirit trembled with doubt. But he stood tall and faced the crowd. I did not climb the mountain for glory, he said. I climbed it so that our children may sleep. Our rivers may cool, our hearts may find peace. If proof is what you demand. He laid his hand on the woven reeds sealing the pot. Then proof you shall have. And the earth itself seemed to hold its breath. The villagers crowded around the square, their faces pale with fear and curiosity. Children clung to their mothers, and the elders stood stiff, their staffs trembling in their hands. Okoro's fingers pressed against the ancient reeds that sealed the clay pot. The ropes were rough beneath his skin, but as he tugged, they loosened easily, as though the pot had been waiting all along. The crowd gasped, some shouted, "Stop, do not open it," while others cried, "Open it, let us see." And over all their voices came the hiss of his rival. Abena, do it, coward, show us your curse. Okoro drew a long breath, his arms shook. He thought of the forest spirits, their warnings, he thought of the endless desert. Of his near death, he thought of Adana's eyes, torn between fear and hope. Then, with a cry, he broke the final reed. At once, the pot shuddered. A sound like rushing water filled the air, though no river was near. Then darkness burst forth, spilling across the square like smoke, faster than the wind. The sun dimmed, shadows stretched, swallowed houses, swallowed fields, swallowed the sky. The people screamed and fell to the ground. For the first time, the village knew night. It was not gentle at first, it was heavy, suffocating. The air grew thick and cold, and strange cries echoed in the dark, whispers, moans, rustling sounds that no one could name. Children wailed, men trembled. Even the elders clutched each other in terror. Abena's voice rose, shaking with fear but defiant still. He has doomed us, he has brought death. Okoro staggered, clutching his staff as the darkness curled around his body. The pot's whispers filled his ears, wild and triumphant. Yes, you freed us, now let us reign forever. But Okoro forced his voice above the chaos. This is not death, this is balance, wait you will see. Yet even as he spoke, doubt clawed at him. For though he had freed the night, the stars had not yet appeared. And without stars, the darkness was nothing but fear. The village lay in pitch black. No sun, no flame, no light at all. only the weight of shadows pressing down on every soul. The people wailed, stumbling into one another. Babies screamed. The elders groaned prayers into the dark. Okoro stood in the center, clutching his staff. His heart hammering, the whispers from the pot slithered around him. See how they fear you. Rule them, command them. You are master of the night now. But he shook his head, voice trembling. No, I am not master. The night is not mine, it belongs to the world. Still doubt tore at him. What if he had been wrong? What if this truly was a curse? Then through the cries, a small voice rose. A child, no more than 7, knelt in the dirt. She held up a broken clay lamp, shielding it with her tiny hands. Please, she whispered into the darkness. Let there be light again. And in that moment, a spark ignited, not from the lamp but from above. The people gasped. One tiny star blinked into existence in the sky. Then another, each shimmered like an ember in a vast black hearth. The more the people calmed, the more stars appeared. A mother wrapped her crying child in her arms. 2 stars bloomed. A man lifted his neighbor from the ground. 3 more stars lit the heavens. Songs rose softly from trembling lips, and with each note, the sky glittered brighter. The terror gave way to wonder. The people looked upward, their mouths open, their tears drying. The darkness no longer suffocated, it glowed with beauty. Cool breezes swept the village, and the people's tired eyes grew heavy, their bodies finally surrendering to rest. Children curled into their mothers' laps and, for the first time in memory, they slept. Okoro lifted his face to the heavens, his heart swelling as the stars stretched across the sky like scattered jewels. He whispered, so this is night, not death but rest. But deep within the pot, the voices hissed. Angry now, you were supposed to be king, not servant. Okoro's hands tightened on his staff. The stars shone, but he knew, the final trial was yet to come. The village was silent now, bathed in the gentle glow of the stars. Children slept peacefully for the first time. Men rested their weary bones, and women laid their burdens down. The endless day was gone. Okoro stood in the center of it all, his staff planted firmly in the ground. He should have felt triumph, but instead his chest ached with heaviness. The elders approached, their faces pale, their eyes wide with awe. Chief Odenigbo raised his trembling hands. You have changed the world, Okoro. You have given us what we feared most, and what we needed most. The people murmured, bowing their heads in gratitude. But then Abana, bitter even in wonder, pointed at the pot and cried, yes, but at what cost? What else waits in that cursed vessel? As if answering him, the pot rumbled. The ground shook, and from its depths, the voices rose once more. Okoro, you freed us, now you belong to us. Okoro gasped as a wave of cold rushed into his veins. His knees buckled. He pressed his staff against the earth to steady himself. But the whispers clawed at his soul. Images flooded his mind, endless shadows. Worlds drowned in darkness, himself seated on a throne of night. No, he shouted, his voice echoing across the square. I will not be your king. I freed you for balance, not for power. The pot trembled violently, its rope snapping, its clay cracking. The people screamed. But before it could shatter, Okoro slammed his staff down with all his strength. A blinding flash tore through the square. When the light faded, the pot lay still, its power sealed once more, but something in Okoro had changed. He rose slowly, his eyes clouded, his face pale. The night is free. He whispered, but I will never know rest again. The spirits' voices echoed faintly in the wind. Balance has a price. From that night forward, Okoro was never the same. While others slept peacefully beneath the stars, he wandered restlessly, caught between dreams and wakefulness, his soul tied forever to the night he had unleashed. The people honored him with both fear and gratitude. They built stories around his name, teaching their children, day is for work, night is for rest. And balance came because one man dared to steal the forbidden. And so, Okoro was remembered for all generations as the man who stole the night, a hero, a fool, and a sacrifice all at once. Please don't forget to share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories.